everyone, and welcome. This is Itzel Mora, and on behalf of ANUIES-TIC 2020 Conference Series, I would like to thank each of you for being here with us. On this occasion, we present the conference Click Here to Kill Everyone by Randy Marchenek, Chief Information Security Officer of Virginia Tech and Director of Virginia Tech's IT Security Laboratory, who shall be accompanied by Director of Information Technologies at Universidad de las Américas Puebla, Fernanda Thompson, as moderator.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Randy McCartney. Thanks for coming to Mexico, at least by this media. And let me tell you who's Randy McCartney. He's the Chief Information Security Officer of Virginia Tech, and also he's Director of the Virginia Tech IT Institute Security Laboratory, and has 25 years. Maybe you have that same age, but he has it on experience and system administrator, auditing, security specialist. He's also co-author of the original SANS Top 10 Internet Threats, the SANS Top 20 Internet Threats, and also the SANS Consensus Roadmap for defending for DDoS attacks, and the SANS Incident Response State-by-State Guides. Randy is currently a senior instructor for the SANS Institute and has taught a wide variety of courses over the years. Currently, he can be found teaching SEC 440, the critical security controls planning and implementation, and also in the auditing side with the SEC 566, implementing the critical security controls on a regular basis. Thank you for joining us, Randy McCarty. I give you the floor. Go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Es un placer para hacer esta presentación con ustedes hoy. So I'm going to share my screen, and we'll be ready to go from here. So the title of my presentation is IoT, Click Here to Kill Everybody. And what I'd like to do in this presentation is to give you an idea of the types of dangers we see nowadays in cybersecurity, not only from information technology, but from the devices that we connect to our home network. This title of the presentation is actually the title of a book written by Bruce Schneier. Bruce is a well-known and respected author on cybersecurity issues here in the United States. And this was one of his books that he came out recently. And I thought the title was just perfect for this. But if you do get a chance to read his book, please do so. I think you will find it very informative. One of the big things with being the CISO is we have to be compliant with all of our regulations and laws and things like this. I ride a motorcycle. This is my friend Ed. We go riding every now and then. But he sent me these pictures to show the difference between being compliant with a regulation. In the case here, we have to wear a helmet, we have to have safety glasses, and we compare being compliant with actually being secure. For me, I ride with all the gear all the time, and you know, I've ridden bicycles before and motorcycles for a long time, and it's always good to have the proper gear to wear. So this is kind of the big difference that we see. I also like to say that one of the biggest problems that we have is how do we know whether a website is giving the correct information or not? As you know, here in the United States, we're getting ready to have our presidential elections. And it's very, very difficult to determine whether or not the news that we see is actually real or not. So I would really recommend, this is a great website, spotthetroll.org, and they give you a little quiz, and they'll show something like the screen that you see here. And then they ask you, is this a real site or is this fake? And so the real challenge, como dice aquí, puedes identificar un sitio de trolls. So I would recommend you show this to your users to see if you can spot which ones are real and which ones are fake. It's a very, very difficult problem. And just so you know, I got 6 out of 8 correct. The other two, they were very, very good. So the big challenge in the university for cybersecurity is that we need to understand what the business processes are of the university. We have three main processes here. We have the administrative side of the house. This is purchasing, HR, personnel. We have, facilities, our legal office, our controller's office, bursar's office. All of these, registrar's office. These are all the individual business processes that run the university. And the cybersecurity architecture that's most similar to this is that of a traditional corporation. The second business process is the academic or the instructional one. And these are the processes that support teaching. In addition to being the Chief Information Security Officer at Virginia Tech, I also teach a class in the fall semester and in the spring semester. And so that part of it is the instructional part. We used systems like Canvas. Other universities use systems like Blackboard or Moodle. We have the delivery methods, Zoom, WebEx. At Virginia Tech, we use Canvas for our instructional management and Zoom for the video processing. We have students that bring all types of computers, Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. And the security model in this environment is closer to that of an internet service provider. Everybody brings their own computers, and we don't really have a lot of control about what's on those computers. We're a research university, so our third business process of research is really a hybrid of the other two. The goal of researchers is, of course, to produce research, but also to protect their intellectual property. Because, as we all know, whoever publishes their research first becomes the de facto owner of that research. So everybody wants to guard their research results until they're ready for publication. And so the security model for this is a hybrid of the administrative and the academic side. The challenge of any security office in the university is to be able to create a security architecture that blends these three requirements. So a friend of mine, Matthew Swan, he took this diagram. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and he changed this into the hierarchy of incident response. So when you construct or when you build your security architecture, these are the questions that you need to be able to ask and have answers for. At the very bottom, you have an inventory. You need to know what is connected to your network, and can you name those assets? Can you identify where they are located? You have telemetry. Do you have visibility into what those devices are doing? Can you see what they're doing? Are they going to sites that are bad? Are they going to normal sites? What type of activity is going on there? Can you detect unauthorized activity? And can you classify the results of your detection efforts? In other words, can you identify what type of attack is happening? Is it information stealing? Is it ransomware? Is it some sort of destruction? Who's the threats? Who are your adversaries? And what are their capabilities? What can they do? Okay, and can you detect them? Do you have a way to see if something is going on? And can you detect them inside your university networks? And if you can, once you find them inside your networks, can you see what they're doing or where they're going? Are they simply using a machine in your network to attack another site, or are they looking for something specific in your network? The biggest danger, of course, for this is for researchers, especially if your university is well known for doing research in a certain area. You may have all sorts of hackers trying to see if they can steal your data. Here in the United States, in the middle of this pandemic with COVID, there were a number of universities that are specialists in doing COVID research, and they saw an increase in probing and cyber attacks of sites from other countries trying to steal their research information and results. So the next thing that you can do is, can you observe their activity in real time when it's happening, not you discovered that it happened 2 weeks ago. And then the last thing at the top of the pyramid is do you have effective countermeasures, and can you to evict the bad people from your network, and can you recover from any damage that they caused? Okay, so the best security model that I've seen for universities is that of a museum. My father, I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, and so my father and I would go to the Smithsonian Institution museums any chance we could get. I fell in love with museums when I was a little kid. But museums, if you look at how a museum is built and what their security is, it really is very, very similar to what we would see in a university. In a university, we can't be like a corporation where we don't let anybody in. Our business is to exchange information. Our business is to collaborate with other researchers at other universities all over the world. And we don't know where they're going to be coming from. And so we have to be able to, have this free-flowing access to resources at our institution. Now, that doesn't mean that it's a free-for-all. We have limited access points, but they need to be free-flowing. And we have additional barriers closer to our high-value assets. If you go to an art museum, the most valuable paintings here, this picture here, a painting of the Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa painting has a lot of extra protection around it that you might not find with a painting by Renoir or any of the other, Jackson Pollock or anybody else. So depending on the value of the asset, you put more protection around that asset. You don't try to protect your entire network. You protect the things that are really valuable. In this case, it could be research, it could be intellectual property, it could be student records, it could be anything that is of value. So museums also have lots of monitoring tools, motion sensors, cameras, those type of things that when you come in, sure, you can walk in and not go through a lot of barriers, but there is a video camera that records when you go in and when you go out. There's active response. If you notice, go to any museum, you'll always see a guard somewhere nearby. You have barriers that can come down if somebody gets too close to a high value exhibit. And even simple things like fire suppression, fire extinguishers, okay? In the event that something's lost, well, we have insurance, and just like a museum does. And in some cases, you can put electronic tags on sensitive files so that they can act as beacons to tell people where they are, just like you might tag a painting with some sort of a GPS thing in there. And the other big philosophy, of course, with museums that it is really relevant to educational universities is that they assume that there are bad people inside already. And so they look for patterns of behavior, and they try to find these types of actors before they start doing any damage. So in this way, I truly believe that this is the best way to explain what security at a university should look like, is to simply go to a museum. And the National Museum in Mexico City, very, very well known. But look around the next time you go visit a museum, and you'll see what we're talking about here. Okay, so when we talk about a thing, the Internet of Things and these devices, we put Amazon Echoes in our home. We have cameras in our home. What is a thing? Okay, and a thing is some physical object that has one or more devices connected to it. And there's two types of things: sensors, which they sense the environment. These are things like thermometers or thermostats or weight scales, and they measure something. They measure temperature, they measure velocity, they measure distance, weight. They measure something and they collect data. Okay. And then you have actuators. And actuators are things that actually affect the physical environment. An example is a brake system in a car. You have a pedal. The pedal's the actuator. The pedal, when you push down on the pedal, it increases the hydraulic pressure, closes brake pads, your calipers across your brake disc, and it acts as a brake for your vehicle. So actuators are things that do something. Okay. I tell people that I'm the CISO of a small city, not of a university. On our campus here at Virginia Tech, we have our own power plant that generates electricity for campus. It also generates electricity for part of the town. We are an agricultural farm. We have agricultural majors, so we have farms here. We have office space and for work and laboratories, that type of stuff that you see in any city. We have our traffic. Our campus is 2 miles by 4 miles in size. We have traffic monitoring there. We have health centers for our students, health facilities there. We have residential neighborhoods. We call them dormitories, but we have residential neighborhoods. We have cultural centers. We have concert halls. We have restaurants all on campus. In other words, everything that you see on campus, you find in a small town. And all of these things, the big challenge now with the Internet of Things is all of these devices that used to be separated and not connected to the internet, they're now being connected to the internet, which means that you have to have some security measures to protect these devices. Okay? Now, in the COVID environment, in the COVID pandemic, here at the university, we've been pretty much working from home since March. And so now what happens is I'm doing this presentation from the computer room at my house. I live about 3 miles from campus, but every device that's in this house that's connected to my home network now becomes by extension something that could be in my university network, especially if I'm connected to servers there. But here are some examples of devices that you can find that are connected to your home network, which means they're connected to the internet, which means these devices do not have a lot of security built into them. But you have Sony, Android TVs, you have wireless cameras, smart cameras, life smart cameras, you have light smart switches, you have a rolling robot that follows you around, sort of like out of Star Wars. You have smart light bulbs, you have smart TVs. There's even a smart toilet that you can do. There's a closet organizer that's all set up, and washing machines and dryers. These are all now coming connected to the network. So every one of these poses an interesting security problem, not only for your home, but for your institution if you are connecting to your network from home. Okay. And this is just a quick example of how you have a device like a light bulb that you control with the mobile app on your smartphone. And hackers are after if they steal your smartphone, they may have access to your mobile app because you saved the password so that it automatically logs into the device. And so they're after your password. They may go after your home network and get control of your home network because you didn't change the default password to your home router. And so there may be vulnerabilities in the actual devices themselves that can be exploited. this is just another way of showing a different type of attack of how a hacker can get into a thermostat by doing a step-by-step, coming in over the network. This is your gateway at your house, and they may be able to fool your gateway into allowing them to connect to it. And then once they're in, they can get to your wireless access point. And once they get to the wireless access point, they might be able to access the device, for instance, your thermostat. What could I do with this? If I took control of your thermostat, I might turn the heat off when it's cold, or I might turn the heat on when it's hot. This is one of my favorite cartoons. If you Google for the Internet of Ransomware Things, you'll find this cartoon. And I like this cartoon because it shows the different types of devices that we find at home, but that can be used to attack a site. And in fact, smart bulbs here and smart cameras were used in a massive denial of service attack 3 or 4 years ago that took down one of the largest internet service providers in the United States, up in the New England area, in the Boston area. So these are some interesting things. The one I like here is with car keys. If you go out to YouTube and search for hijacking a Prius or hijacking a Jeep, there's a hacker by the name of Charlie Miller who's done some very interesting research on how to take over a car remotely over the net. Okay. This is an example of a hacking tool that was used years ago to control the lights. That the Hue lighting system was controlled by an app, and a hacker figured out a way to hijack control of the smart bulb system in your home, and so that he could control the lights in your house. And this is pretty much how easy it is. It's all web screen based. Sometimes you don't have to go high tech. Sometimes you can go low tech, and it doesn't take a lot to figure out what the 4 numbers are in the code to unlock this door. Now you have to play around with the permutations, but at least you know it's 4 numbers and not all 10. Okay. So we have this information technology requirements, and in the Internet of Things world, we have operational technology requirements. Information technology, everything is dynamic. We want it right away. A single app can do multiple things. It can retrieve data, display data, change data, modify data, delete data. In the operational technology side, our device does one thing and one thing only. Okay. In information technology, data is king. In operational technology, the process is king. I am doing this process. My job is to apply the brakes. That's all I'm doing. Radio's going on, not my problem. That's the radio controller. So it's one thing only. And information technology, all of this stuff, data storage and all this thing, the manipulation, recuperation of data, transmission, manipulation of that information. But in the operational technology world, it does one thing and one thing only, because the danger is that people can get hurt. There can be physical damage if there's a malfunction on the operational technology side of the house. Okay. So in information technology, the triad of information security was around confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data. Those were the 3 most important things in the IT world. In the operational world, that's not the order. It is control, and then availability, then integrity, and then confidentiality. Okay. Again, because if you lose control of a device, it can cause damage and even physical harm to somebody. If the brakes don't work because someone else hijacked control of the brakes, there could be a car crash. Okay. And so the other big thing too is in patching, we have Microsoft Windows Patch Tuesday, right, where everything's done automatically. But in the operational world, it may be a decade before you apply a patch to the device itself. Okay, and this is just sort of a review of what we were just talking about. Most laptops in information technology last 3 to 5 years. In the operational world, these things have long lifetimes, and 10 to 20 years is actually on the young side. In one of our labs, they have a hand crank machine that peels an apple. You put an apple in it and it peels it. And that device is 100 years old and it still works. So that's the thing there. The other big difference in this slide here is down here when we talk of loss of data. If a system goes down in the information technology world, we lose data. But if the system goes down in the operational world, a life could be lost. Imagine if this is a medical device, a pacemaker or a insulin pump, and that fails, that person's life is now in danger. So the consequences are much more serious. Schneier, in his book, talks about how we can apply these principles to a car and attacking a car. Confidentiality. Nowadays with OnStar and all of these other software services that you can put in your car, someone knows who you are and when you're in your car. So that confidentiality model is exploded because now someone knows who you are. The same thing with availability. What happens if I deactivate the brake systems there? The interesting one that I didn't think about, but that he mentions in the book, is an integrity attack. So now cars, you have the hands-off driving, that it will stay in your lane. But what happens if I modified the code to be instead of 2 feet to the right of the center line, I'm 2 feet to the left of the center line. And so my car wants to get over in the opposite direction. And that's an example of an integrity attack. And I mentioned Bruce's book here at the bottom. Okay. So there is some common ground in this. And the most important one of these things here is the third point here, where you need to encrypt all of the communications, right? If I'm speaking in English and I'm in a room full of English speakers who don't speak Spanish, bueno, si empiezo a hablar español, esta es una forma de encripción, ¿verdad? Estoy cifrando todas las comunicaciones que hago aquí. And the English speakers don't know what I'm saying if they don't speak Spanish. Spanish is the key. So encrypting your data from your research devices, from your control devices, from your computers, that's a very, very important thing, especially as more of these devices move into the wireless arena. Okay. Net access isn't equal where we are. Even here in Blacksburg, I live 3 miles from 3.5 miles from campus, just outside the town limits, and my neighborhood did not get internet access until 2 years ago. Because the cable companies, the internet companies didn't want to come out. They wanted to take a shorter route, but the person who owned the property would not let them get on their property. So it's not, it's a big problem now, especially in the COVID era, in the pandemic era, where a lot of our students are taking classes online only. And so what happens if they don't have good network access? Or you have a large family where you've got some kids in middle school or high school, and you have college kids, and then you are trying to work from home, and everybody's using your home network. And so you can drive it, out there. And internet service providers may have plans where they charge you more if you use more data, consume more data. So that's something you have to worry about there. Okay. So what's happened in the work from home environment, and that's what the hashtag WFH is, can you still use Active Directory from your university, or two-factor authentication? What about software licenses that were licensed for machines that belong to the university, but now you need to use them at home? So what type of licensing stuff do you have there? Okay. So a lot of times corporations like to do scanning of their systems to see if they're secure. But this may be blocked by your home ISP. You know, I'm at home, I'm not on the tech network. Now I use a VPN, but I still am, endpoint is at using the home ISP. And the ISPs may interpret this activity as an attack and may block it. You know, one of the first things we want to do is if we find that a machine's been compromised, we want to disconnect it from the network. Well, that's not that easy anymore. To disconnect my machine from the internet requires somebody to call up the ISP that provides network service for me. Okay. What type of logs are you going to need in this new environment? So one of the recommendations that I make for people when they work from home, if you have to use your home computer, is to create a separate user ID on your home computer and use that for work, so that you have your family and everybody else uses one user ID and you use another a work ID only for work. It's really a very good way to keep your work history separated from your home history, your browser history, whatever sensitive data that you deal with at work or as part of your research, that stays over there. And it could limit the damage done by ransomware if the ransomware is executing with user privileges. And then at the end, when we finally get out of work from home and we're able to go back to our offices to go to work, if you don't need the user ID anymore, you just delete it from your home computer, okay? And so now what happens is the data that is in your house, in your home computer, does it meet any of the regulations that are mandated by that, okay? And so you may have to make your home computer, compliant with whatever regulations are for the data that you're using. All right. But once data gets to your home machine, the university doesn't really have any idea where it goes. If I'm not connected to the university, my data could go anywhere. So, we have to look for things like this. We have, malware that's what we call infostealer class malware that looks for sensitive information like credit card numbers, health ID numbers, and things like that. Okay, so, how do we know if something? Let's say I downloaded a file with class student information on it, and I have it on my home computer, and then I disconnect from the university network, but it's still that file is still on my home computer, and my computer gets infected with this infostealer class malware. Then what happens? Okay, and so in that case, maybe we can insert what we call a web bug. A web bug is, this is a PowerPoint presentation. I've got pictures embedded in it, but I could embed a small picture, a 1x1 white square that is basically invisible, but that picture lives on a server in my office. So anybody who opens the document, PowerPoint goes, oh, I need to go to this server to get this picture to bring it back to this presentation. So that's one way that you can do it, because now I have a log that somebody opened the file. It sounds nice on paper, but it is a lot of work to do. Okay? Home users are now the targets of phishing emails. Just in the last since May 1st, I think it was, there have been over 1,700 domains that have the word Zoom in them. And they're fake. They're all fake domains. They're trying to get your Zoom credentials. There are Google, reports that there are at least 522,000 active phishing sites that have been created then. And if you don't believe that, look in your spam folder in your email, and you'll see how much spam actually got to you, but is filtered out by your mail system. Your email address and control of your email address is very, very important. If you lose control of it, somebody guesses your email password, they can go anywhere and create an account or change their passwords for banking accounts, Facebook, Twitter, because those services simply ask for an email address that they can send confirmations to. Well, if you own the email address and control it, you can see those emails and you can respond accordingly, so that this, so your email address all of a sudden becomes almost as valuable as a credit card or car keys, and in some cases it's probably more. Okay. The other most important thing to do is to change all of the default passwords that come with any device that you buy, whether it's a camera, a router, anything like that. Cisco has a feature called WPS, Wi-Fi Protected Setup, that allows a home user just to do one touch and it does everything for them. You need to disable that because hackers can reconfigure your entire home network if they get access to that. Okay. On the, make sure that you've patched your operating system, your firewalls, host-based firewalls. Fortunately, Microsoft and Apple and Linux, they provide you with host-based firewalls, and they are enabled by default. Okay. And so maybe what you want to do is create a separate network segment at home for all of your home devices, and your work computer is on a separate segment that way. That way you sort of minimize the traffic between the two. Okay. What we should be doing is what we see on the left-hand side here, but that's a lot of work to properly wash your hands, count to 20, wash your hands, scrub your hands. No, I'm going to take all these weirdo devices to instead, because they're shortcuts, or I believe they're shortcuts. If you've never changed your default passwords, sites like this one should change your mind, because this site here has a list of default passwords for a couple thousand devices. You can see here in the display, a 3Com Cellplex device has a username of tech and a default password of tech. And so 3Com Air Connect Access, this revision model, doesn't have any password protection. So, and you can sort of, if you visit this site, datarecovery.com, or just Google for default password websites, you will get a lot of websites that have these collections of passwords. So if I'm driving down the street and I see that you're using a 3Com Cellplex wireless router, I might just connect to it and give it the username and password and see if you change your default passwords. If you did, that's very good. If you didn't change the default passwords, now I have access to that, and I can tell your your wireless router that to let my computer connect to your network. So yes, change your default passwords. Shodan is a internet search engine. It scans the entire internet. You can tell it to look in certain domains and certain, vt.edu or whatever your domain name is. You can tell it to look there, and it will search that network for any of these Internet of Things types of devices. This is a free tool that is available for anyone. Okay, so you want to look at the risks, and you want to make sure that you start with the data. Data and identity are the two most important things, and they are the two most mobile things that are out there. High-risk data, sensitive data. If I'm a researcher and I've got very good stuff there, I want to make sure that I am basically encrypting that data. Okay, I want to make sure that I have it protected. I want to make sure that nobody else can see it, because if someone steals that data, a competitor steals my data and publishes before I do, everybody thinks it's theirs. I might try to sue them in court, but the person could just say, "Oh, that guy's just angry because I beat him to it." So that has a lot of implications there. awareness training. My partner, my buddy Lance Spitzner, was talking about security awareness, and here's a link to how to secure your home computers. But the real problem that we have is that security of this Internet of Things is not very good. It's pretty much insignificant there. Okay, and so a lot of these vendors, they assume that the network was safe and secure, but it's not. And that's the one thing that you have to understand. And more importantly, you need to understand the data that is being collected by the apps that are running on these devices, and who's getting that data, and what are they doing with that data, and can you stop it from collecting that data? Okay, so that's pretty much what I've got. I wanted to leave it some time open for questions, and so if anybody's got any questions, I'll stop. This is my contact information. You can send me an email, send me something by Twitter. Puedes escribir la nota en español, que yo entiendo español, si quieres. Again, are there any questions that anyone may have?
Randy,
yes.
Thank you very much, for your advice, sharing some of your experience and also knowledge. Thanks also for your reflection about OT, because many institutions, at least in Mexico, don't have the faintest idea about the printers, video projectors,
oh, yes,
connected to the LAN, CCTV security, cameras, video conference rooms, automatic doors, PLCs, and many things. Thank you very much.
Well, and speaking of printers, most printers, they have an administrator password and it's not set.
Yeah.
So anybody can connect to it and print out thousands of pages if they wanted to. And there actually is a printer exploitation toolkit that can retrieve files that have been sent to the printer, because most printers these days have their own disk drives, and this thing can extract files from your printer. So yeah.
Yeah, we can count on some students can go out search for it. Okay, Randy, we have some questions here.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about reaction speed.
Mm-hmm.
Inside a university, sometimes it's not the kind of service that we can offer, because we have some lack of resources or stuff like that. So in this case, what about the use of artificial intelligence or machine learning on cybersecurity in our side? So
the biggest problem right now with machine learning and artificial intelligence, I do believe that's the way we're going to be, but I think we're still 5 to 10 years away from using it effectively. And the reason why is, for artificial intelligence and machine learning, they need a large amount of data. They need to be able to collect a large amount of data. And I mean, we're talking in the petabyte range of data. In order to effectively learn something and not create a worse problem than the one you're trying to solve. So I think I am a big fan of it, but I don't think it's ready for production just yet. If you notice, the companies that are advertising AI products and things like that are larger companies, social media companies, Facebook, where they have huge amounts of data about user behavior. IBM, Facebook, Twitter, all of these social media sites. And where did they get that data from? When you load your apps up, you didn't know that you were feeding all that data to them. So in a university environment, you need to be able to collect, have sensors to collect this type of data, and then be able to have your algorithms work on it. So the equivalent example that I can think of is when you and I were 2 or 3 years old and we were just learning how to walk. Our knowledge base of what was just what we could see around us. We could not see the bigger picture because we just, had not developed that far. And so, we saw an oven, and we might touch the oven and oh, wait, that's hot, and then the next time we might go, no, I'm not going to touch it because it was hot the last time, but the oven may be off. So you need that time frame to collect all that data.
Okay, thank you very much. We just received a very interesting question. You know that many of institutions in Mexico right now are struggling with the budget. No, it has been hard enough, but now we have another cut in the budget for the next year.
Yep.
Now working from home, no, with our administrative employees, and also 100% of our students, working from the houses, as well as our teachers. The question is, what do you recommend to schools that have been forced to migrate to online model and didn't have any plan to ongoing? What is your advice that you can give to keep the environment of students and data safe?
So freeware, open source software, a tool like Veracrypt is open source software that you can use to encrypt data on a machine. The real thing to do is really the big problem is with Zoom and WebEx and all of these media devices here that require network infrastructure. So for instructors, I hate to say this, but learn how to use PowerPoint effectively. That turns out to be one of the best ways to have notes, that type of stuff. Learn how to do recordings, YouTube videos of a lecture, things like that. As far as security goes, the same type of security that you were doing in the office, you should be able to do at home. And the basic stuff of make sure that you've got patches, make sure that you've got strong passwords. You may not have had strong passwords on your home computer before, but now you need strong passwords on your home computer. Anti-malware software, things like that is what you can do. But we're in the same situation, right? We just got told we're going to have a 7.3% budget cut because of COVID. So there are a lot of freeware tools that are out there that you can use to help protect your data, to help protect the transmission of the data, and to help detect when your machines are being attacked.
Thank you very much. Now, a tough question for you. Have your university been successfully hacked?
Oh, yes. I did not become a security expert by reading a book. I got into cybersecurity 30 years ago in 1991 when one of my servers got hacked, and it took me 3 months to recover from that. We've had numerous hacks in the last decade, but each time we learn from the hack, and we get that. But yeah, we had we get small attacks, we get phishing attacks where people lose credentials. What that helps us to do is how to build recovery systems quickly. But we've had numerous attacks.
Now I have another questions here, but this question is for me. Okay.
Okay.
Pay attention. How come that the Hokies football team of VT is the team that represents the Virginia Polytechnic Institute and the State University?
So Virginia Tech is a land grant university. It was formed in 1872, and it started off as a military school. And so we have a big ROTC program And so the cadets, that was one of their cheers. It was just a nonsense word, you know, rah rah, VPI, hokey hokey, hokey high, and they just made up that word and it stuck.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was part of a chant when they were marching on the drill field and things like that. Yeah, it's an odd name there. Was that a Dallas Cowboy star?
Yes. I'm a Cowboy fan, but also here at Universidad de las Américas Puebla, football is everything, man. I'm talking about football, not soccer. I'm talking about football. So,
well, I grew up in Washington, D.C., so it was Washington Redskins for me, and the Dallas Cowboys. That was one of the big rivalries.
Not anymore. You don't have a name.
Not anymore. We don't have a name. That's right.
Sorry about that. A question here. What do you suggest in order to make safe a house with the Internet of Things in a house? You know, these cameras, these doors, and the whole thing, even your thermostat and everything, not the Nest, no?
Yep.
How can we?
So, two things. The very first thing, change all of the default passwords. Every single one of those devices comes with a default password. First thing you should do is change them all. And there's usually instructions. It's either in the operator manual, or you can go out and Google for those instructions. But that's the first step, is change all the default passwords. That includes your wireless router. That includes, you know, every device that's there. But start with your wireless router for sure. The second thing is you can create individual segments in your home network. So I would put all of those devices, echoes, streams, you know, all of the cameras. I would put that all in a separate network segment from your home computer or any of your work computers that you're using from home. So I would have at least two segments. One segment for those devices, one segment for your home computers, and change all of your default passwords.
Randy, please give us some advice of how to fight in order to obtain a decent budget for software, for services, for you know, for courses for the employees. Give us some advice, please.
So sometimes you have to let a breach happen. So when a breach happens, you have about 72 hours. Well, they will give you what you need. You need more money, you'll get that. You'll get that money. The key is to have a plan. You know, you know, as you look, oh, no, we have weak passwords, you know, all of this type of stuff. So you have a little folder with products and services and training that you need, and you do your best to prevent, you know, those attacks. But if it happens, the first thing your upper management is going to ask you is, what do you need to fix this? And that's when you say, here's what I need. Okay. Now, you can't do this too often, but really, I would take it. So, ¿cómo se dice? ANUIES? How do you pronounce your organization's name?
ANUIES.
ANUIES. So ANUIES, so the equivalent of ANUIES in the United States is EDUCAUSE. And they offer all sorts of training, you know, from the user awareness that, like Lance was talking about, to technical training. SANS offers training, and SANS actually does offer training at a discount for educational institutions. And it's pretty substantial. It's a 50 to 60% discount on that. If you go to the SANS site, sans.org/partnership, you can read about that program. So that gives you technical training for your IT staff. But the real big thing is you know, how do I combat it? You know that you're going to get hit sooner or later.
Yeah.
And you anticipate what type of an attack it's going to be, and anticipate what you might need. And it might start off with training. The way we did it. Well, there wasn't a lot of training back then, but the way we did it was, you know, in fact, that's how I got involved in SANS. Was a machine of mine got hacked. It took me 3 months to recover. It was one of the servers that we used in the university, And my boss said, what do you need? And I said, well, I'd like some training. And he said, okay, and off we went. So, start with training. And then the most important thing about training is when you come back to your institution, you train other people in the institution.
Train the trainers. Yeah.
Right. Train the trainers. Exactly right. And then what that does is Lance uses this term a lot, a human sensor. Now you've got people that know what to look for, and they can help you, respond to an incident and things like that. The other thing, it's a very long-term project. I mean, think of this as a 5 to 10 year effort.
Nice. And thanks for the advice. And also, because we work by reaction always here, and we have a very short period of time in order to obtain that amount of money. 72 hours, you say.
72 hours.
I like it. I like it. Be prepared and use it.
And what happens is a lot of times people, if they don't have that plan, they waste those 72 hours doing all the research. So, if you know ahead of time what you need more training, you need a password manager, you need this type of device or that type of device, and you have some quotes, they may be old, but it does one of two things. It tells your management that you actually are anticipating this and you do have a plan. It doesn't have to be exact. They don't care about the details. They just want to know, are you moving in this direction? But yeah, that's a tip my predecessor gave me when I became the CISO.
Randy, do me a favor. This is the last question. Can you share with us the last slide in order that the people can have your information to contact you? The question is, right now, everybody's jumping around, going cloud-based, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, and software as a service. But the security have been a headache. Can you give us some advice regarding these cloud-based platforms?
Yes. So the most important thing to do there is to have a strong data classification scheme. Okay. Low risk data, moderate risk data, high risk data. And your high risk data is the data that needs the most protection. And you come up with ways to encrypt the data, high risk data at rest. Okay. And then once you come up with a scheme to encrypt it, and there's lots of commercial and freeware tools that can do that for you. Once you do that, then it doesn't matter where you put the data. You can put the data on a USB drive, you can put it out in Amazon, you can put it out in Office 365. If you store it out in the cloud and it's already encrypted, that's the best you can do to protect your data. Don't worry so much about the devices, it's the data that counts. And so, come up with a scheme to protect the data locally, and then you can store it wherever you need to.
Great. I was taking advice also for me. Randy Marcani, in the name of Mexico and also in the name of the National Association of Universities and Institutes of Higher Education in Mexico, thank you very much. Thanks for your wise advice. Thanks for your time. And I hope to be in contact with you, my friend, especially when we play against your no-name team.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look for you. All right, we're gonna bet something. What about a bottle of tequila? Okay, let's do that. Or even better, mezcal. You're gonna love it.
I'm all right with that. No, thank you very much. Gracias por todo. Fue un placer hacer esta presentación por ustedes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
In the name of ANUIES-TIC 2020 Conference Series, I would like to thank you, Randy Marcanic and Fernando Thompson, for being part of these. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. It's been a pleasure to have you as part of this event, and I hope you enjoy it as much as we did. We shall be sending you your certificate of participation shortly, and for all the viewers, stay tuned. We still have some more conferences. Have a great and lovely afternoon.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Ciao.
Bye-bye.